Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I wanted to give you guys a whole bunch of tips of the most common issues that I see throughout my pug runs for Vykas. I know many of you guys have watched ATK's video or TheSandov's video on how to clear Vykas and it shows all the mechanics. So you can definitely watch that, but watch my video for these extra tips that they kind of don't cover, where you kind of have to do the run in order to see these unique situations. So there's a whole bunch of unique situations where you can cheese it, or there's better ways in order to do it, especially if you're in a pug group where there's less communication, you don't really know how people react, and you also kind of don't know their skill level. However, if you already know the mechanics and you can kind of type out the phases to help people, there's a whole bunch of tips that I have here that will help you out on your runs. So if you want to check out a couple of these tips, please use the timestamps down below. I'll try to label them the best that I can, but let's get down to it. Alright, my first tip for you is for Gate 1 for Vykas, and this is for normal mode specifically. So during the colored orb phase where you're trying to match the colored orb towards the gate, the red, blue, white, green, black, if you manage to fail more than 2, you're going to have to time stop this in normal mode. The moment that you want to time stop is when he touches the ground, so you'll be immune to the damage. My next tip for you is for the memory phase. So after you break through the Stagger bar, you're going to have to do the memory, and if you manage to miss out on many orbs in normal mode, what you can do is have a support use their awakening in order to get a support shield, or if you don't have a support in your party, you can time stop this as well. So after all of the orbs disappeared, you can count to 2 in your head and you can press the time stop button and you should be immune to the damage. My next tip for you is specifically for hard mode for Gate 1. Sometimes you will get the Velganos pattern, and as you can see here, someone already grabbed their orb, but don't worry about it if you messed up the Velganos pattern, because what you can do here is you can run to your support and you can get a shield from your support in order to block the damage. Or you can also time stop this as well. Alright, so let's talk about Gate 2 next. This is going to be for normal mode and hard mode for this specific setup. So what you want to do immediately is set up positions for the wing pattern at line 120 for the boss. So you're going to need 5 people in the center, and you're going to have them in a cross formation, and on top of it, you need 3 people for the wings to identify the wing pattern. You need one at 11 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 7 o'clock. As you can see here, I'm going to type out all the positions so my team knows where they need to stand. Once you set up those positions, you can set up positions for the orb pattern next that happens at line 65 for the boss fight. So what happens here is that you're going to have 2 people in each position, 2 at 11 o'clock, 2 at 3 o'clock, and 2 at 7 o'clock. Then there should be 2 people in the middle to be spares or flex, so they're going to move around depending on the orb pattern. So what you're going to see here is that people are going to type their position. For example, I typed 11-1. So I'm going to collect the first orb that appears at 11 o'clock. The next person will have to be 11-2. For 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock, they will be doing the same thing as well. They're going to establish their position, 7-1 or 7-2. The other 2 people will be flex, so they're either going to move at 11 o'clock, 3 o'clock, or 7 o'clock, depending if there's an additional black orb that needs to be grabbed. In the event there's not enough people due to people being killed throughout the boss fight, what you can do is you can time stop and grab multiple orbs, or you can also use a Splendid Panacea in order to grab an additional orb as well. Or if you don't have either of those, if you have to die for the orb, it's worth it to die for the orb if it'll help your party proceed. Also for the orbs, you're going to have to decide on the format that you need to type. It sounds very simple, however, by making things very clear, making things very neat, it's easy to digest the information that needs to be conveyed. So for example, for 11 o'clock, if you want to decide to use letters, you're going to type RB, RB, depending on what combination it is. Some teams also like to use numbers for their format as well. For example, if the first orb, third orb, and the fifth orb are black, they're going to type 11 o'clock, 1, 3, 5. Those are the orbs that they would take. During the entire boss fight as well, if someone happens to die during the boss fight, make sure that whoever dies types out the position so people know ahead of time if they're flex, if they need to cover their spot. Alright, my next tip for you is that if you notice that your party doesn't have enough DPS, well, things that you can try. So our party specifically noticed that we didn't have enough damage in order to kill the boss. So we decided that for party 2, I told my team that we can easily fix this by bringing dark nades. So for party 2, all of us brought dark nades while party 1 still had flame nades in order to use it during the waffle phase. So what happened here was that I told them that would use the first dark nade when the first counter happens. So after the first counter happens on the boss, I use Dark Nade and I typed it out. And then the next person would know that they would use it next. And after they use theirs, they would type out D or Dark Nade. And the next person after that would use their Dark Nade as well. And we would cycle through all our Dark Nades. Eventually, once we got towards the end of the boss fight, we would gain an additional minute after cycling through all our Dark Nades, and we had more than enough time in order to clear the boss stage. My next tip for you is for a simple basic attack pattern that happens throughout the fight. So Vykas will choose one person with the purple ring, and that purple ring will chase them. If the player touches the ring or after a certain amount of time has passed, the ring will detonate. So what the player with the purple ring should do is they should definitely ping the direction that they're going to head in so everybody else can go the opposite way. Alright, so let's move on to gate 3. The next step for you happens at around line 135, and it's going to happen after the typing test. If any of you guys fail 1, 2, or 3 times, you can time stop the damage in both normal and hard mode. So if you're running 8 DPS groups, if any of you guys can't type, then you can definitely time stop it. If it's 4 or more fails, it's an automatic wipe. If you have gamers here that can all type and everybody passes the typing test, Vykas will be down for a couple seconds where you can get some free DPS in, but do remember you have to stay relatively together because Vykas will still get up and fly away to do the line attack, where you have to go either on the inside or the outside of the attack pattern. The next tip is for supports at the same exact part. If there is one fail, you can use your small shield ability to shield the party through the damage. If it's 2 and 3, you will probably most likely have to use your awakening in order to give a bigger shield to the party. After you pass the typing test, my next tip for you is that at 120, when you start to stack up with the lust puddles, I would definitely ping the location where you want to stack up. However, once you see that the puddles have appeared, stop attacking, because sometimes some people are charmed early, and if you use a big attack, you can definitely kill one of your teammates. So I highly recommend that you just stop attacking and just run around the puddles till you're charmed. My next tip for you is that when Vykas summons her monsters, she'll enter this attack pattern right here. You should all run towards 6 o'clock. So at 6 o'clock, there'll be a safe spot here, and just let Vykas come towards you. Most of the time, when Vykas walks towards you, there'll be one opportunity in order to get a counter in. So you can get some free DPS in. So make sure you hang out around the edge of it, and if anybody that can see the enemies or the monsters with a high lust bar that's over 70%, they can definitely ping the safe spots. Another tip for the monster phase, where you have to run to the 6 o'clock position to be safe, is that sometimes this phase overlaps with the swamp phase that happens around roughly line 75 to 78. So sometimes if it overlaps, if you can see the monsters without having a high lust bar, that's how you know that you have to run up immediately for swamp. So if you look at my character myself, I don't have a high lust bar gauge, but I saw the monster. That's how I immediately knew that the swamp phase is going to be in. Or you can also look at the top right on the minimap. If you see Vykas teleports to the middle, that's how you know swamp phase is going to appear. Here's another example where we have to run to 6 o'clock in order to get to the safe spot. However, the monsters do appear right when the swamp mechanic phase pops up. So here it's spawning on the left side instead of in front of us. It can also spawn on the right side if you see it without the low lust bar gauge. My next tip for you is that if you have a high DPS group, or if you're struggling with the tentacle phase, I recommend that you actually save Nineveh. Instead of using it after the typing test, what you should do is save it for Tentacles. So I don't know who exactly created this picture or where it's from. I saw it floating around Discord, but there's multiple angles where you can shoot Nineveh in order to knock out multiple tentacles. I still have yet to find the exact spot where I can shoot all 4 tentacles in one Nineveh shot, but I tend to do the bottom row one because I can typically knock out 3 of them, and if I have to kill one manually, I'll just kill the 1 tentacle manually. You can also use items like Glutera Horn and Flame Grenades in order to kill the tentacles as well. Let's talk about Medusa phase now. For normal mode, all you have to do is not look. Just auto attack the opposite direction from her and you should be facing the opposite way. For hard mode, you're going to have to either do the mechanic or you can cheese it by using time stop. Not every group will have people confident when doing Medusa, so if you decide to use time stop, let the people know ahead of time. And then what you're looking for is the red swirls. So the moment you see the red swirls starting to spiral around her, you want to press time stop there. That way you'll be able to be invincible and survive through the damage. On top of it, she might do another Medusa phase later on in the fight, so at most there's going to be 2. In normal mode, this is not an issue, but in hard mode, this may be a little bit tricky. So if you're in a traditional group with supports, you're most likely going to use 1 time stop. After breaking the stagger, you're going to time stop there, and then you could save the other 2 time stops for additional Medusas. if you're in an 8 DPS group for hard mode, it is crucial that everybody nails the typing test in the beginning, because if either of you guys miss a typing test, you're most likely going to have to time stop there once, then you're going to use your second time stop at the stagger phase after you break it, that's 2, and then you're going to use the third one at a Medusa phase. If you encounter another Medusa afterwards, it's not going to look too good because you actually have to do the mechanic properly. Alright, let's talk about 0 bar stagger phase next. So one mistake that I see people tend to do is that they run behind Vykas too early. So what you want to do is look on your minimap for the real Vykas, and then you want to face towards the real one. So once you face towards the real one, wait for the black puddle, and then you can just follow the black puddle in order to drain your lust stacks. It will move behind Vykas and you'll have enough time to DPS and break the stagger bar. Once this attack is over, Vykas will either go towards the middle or do a line attack, so be sure to dodge the line attack. We totally forgot about it and just went on autopilot, but for the most part you want to head towards the middle afterwards in order to attack Vykas again to try to break the stagger bar. Right here you can throw in a whole bunch of your stagger skills, your whirlwinds if you have them, and pretty much just try to hit Vykas with everything you have. Be sure as well that you watch out for the pink feet and you drop them off on the side, because over time throughout the course of the 0 stagger bar phase, those big puddles start getting bigger and bigger, and eventually after you break the stagger bar, you'll be able to clear it. These are all the tips that I had for you today. Hopefully some of this helps you out on your pug runs, or if you're not even running pugs, if you have a static group, maybe some of these tips will help you on your runs as well. If you haven't cleared Vykas, don't worry, keep at it. Eventually you will be able to clear it as you keep attempting Vykas more and more. You learn the attack patterns, you learn how to dodge. I myself at first had to put in a lot of hours trying to learn down this Legion Raid. It took me around 20 hours or so in order to clear all 3 gates. But afterwards I feel more comfortable with it. I've cleared Vykas around 4 or 5 times so far, and now I'm running it with either just a Gun Lancer support or no support at all, and it gets a lot easier every time I do it. But keep at it, eventually you will get there. But that's pretty much it for me. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time in another video for Lost Ark. Peace.